It's a nice and chilly evening in a small town in northeastern Oklahoma. Some showers have passed over earlier today, and on your drive home from work, you saw thunderstorms to your south around an hour earlier. Right now, you're sitting on your bed watching TV before going to sleep, as a terrifying message gets transmitted.
Tornado emergency from Barnsdall. A tornado warning remains in effect until 10:15
You look
p.m.
outside
Central Daylight
and you
Time
see
for
it.
East Central Osage,
A
Northern
powerful
Washington
tornado
County.
is heading
At
right for you.
9:39 p.m. Central Daylight Time, a confirmed.
This is the story of the Barnsdall, Oklahoma EF-4 nighttime monster. The first time risk for severe weather on May 6th was noted was in the Day 6 outlook of the SPC, issued on May 1st. As we get closer to May 6th, the risk would steadily increase, receiving an enhanced risk on the Day 3 outlook, then a moderate in the 1300C Day 2 outlook, and finally a high risk on the 1300C Day 1 outlook. On May 6th, the storms would begin to fire up in the western Oklahoma-Texas border at around 2:30 p.m. local time. Pretty quickly after forming, they would start to organize in a line of discrete supercells. First tornado of the day would come from the northern storm, where Storm Chaser A would catch this beautiful EFU near Helena. The middle storm would produce the next tornado, which was an EF1 cone. Throughout the remainder of the day, only EF1s or lower would reach for the ground, two of which would actually hit more. Most people expected more though, as there's still the high risk in place. And as night sets, you would expect the tornado potential to stay the same, if not decrease. While the discrete supercells were merging to a QLCS though, something completely different happened. Multiple prefrontal storms popped up west of Tulsa. These would at first not do very much, but as the QLCS approached, one would begin to dominate, and at 9:12 p.m., a large tornado would reach for the ground. The Barnsdall tornado started off 6 miles east of Cleveland and around 25 miles northwest of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Right after touching down, it would tear through a forest, largely only breaking off branches, but also uprooting some trees. It would then pretty quickly set its sights on 3 buildings, 1 family residence and 2 farm outbuildings. The group of buildings would be almost directly caught by the tornado. The fairly well-built family residence would only sustain minor damage, while the much weaker outbuildings would be almost completely slapped. Just before crossing State Highway 20, the tornado would hit multiple electrical transmission lines and some trees. The trees would get their trunks snapped, getting a rating of EF1, and the electrical transmission lines would get their poles bent, getting a rating of EF3. After crossing State Highway 20, the tornado would hit another forest near the Flesher oil field. This time it would uproot a lot more trees than earlier, but still get no higher rating than EF2 with estimated winds of 115 miles per hour. Although the funnel is fairly small and the winds are very concentrated near the core, the wind field has expanded to nearly 3/4 of a mile now, with the strongest part of the tornado, aka the EF3 force winds, likely being confined to an area around 1/5 of a mile. Up until now, the tornado has remained over fairly rural areas, only having hit 3 buildings and some forests. Now, there's a much bigger problem at hand, as it's heading towards a town, Barnsdall. The residents of Barnsdall have received a tornado warning over 40 minutes ago already, before the tornado had even touched down. But first, the now almost 1 mile wide tornado is gonna have to make it over a hill that's situated south of Barnsdall. On top of this hill is a singular home, surrounded by trees. After being directly struck by the tornado's core, this home would get completely slapped, leaving no walls standing and getting a rating of EF4 with estimated winds of 180 miles per hour. The surrounding forest would nearly completely be flattened, and get a rating of EF3 with winds of 160 miles per hour. You might have noticed that up until now I haven't used any footage of the tornado. This is largely because there barely is any. There are some pictures of it, but no chaser managed to get constant good video of it. One got very close to that though.
There it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. Tornado off to the left.
Brandon Kopik has been chasing the tornado since it has touched down. He's approaching Barnsdall from the east, which is currently being hit by the tornado. As he got closer to town, he would have to contend with increasingly strong rain and wind, and would catch a few glimpses of what could have been the tornado. When he finally arrived in Barnsdall, he would begin searching for damage throughout the town, and as he didn't find anything at the start, hope that the tornado missed to the east.
Okay, I've got roofs missing over here.
As he got closer to the southeastern corner of Barnsdall though, he would begin to see roofs missing, then a nearly toppled over outbuilding where he would stop to see if the owners were okay,
You guys okay?
and then as he continued, he would come across the core of the tornado's path. What just happened is one of the most terrifying and rare occurrences with tornadoes. A violent tornado directly hitting a densely populated area. In total, around 43 structures were hit, of which 25 would sustain major damage. Sadly, amidst all the damage, 81-year-old Wayne Hogue and 53-year-old Rhonda Heyman would lose their lives as each of their homes would be completely destroyed. 8 other people were also injured, and search and rescue crews had to pull 25 people from their homes. Out of the 43 damaged homes, this one, near 285 Wrangell Heights Road, was damaged the hardest. This 2-story family residence was completely slammed, getting a rating of EF4 with winds of 170 miles per hour. Here's a picture before and after the tornado. It's possible that when the tornado went down the hill and was about to strike Barnsdall, a process called downsloping occurred, strengthening the tornado. Downsloping works like this. When a tornado goes down a slope, the air parcels in the funnel can't stay at the same height, or the tornado would be cut off at the bottom. What actually happens is that the air parcels rush downwards to fill in the gap created by the hill. In this process, they are accelerated by gravity, ultimately making the ground level winds of the tornado stronger. The amount of which the winds increase depends on the degree of the slope and the height of it. In the case of Barnsdall, the hill wasn't very high, standing at around 150 feet, so even though downsloping did increase the tornado's wind speeds, it was likely only by a few miles per hour. Right after the tornado went through Barnsdall and its warning got upgraded to a tornado emergency, it would hit multiple buildings on a street leading into town. Each of the 5 buildings, including a warehouse, would be completely slabbed, but only get ratings up to EF2 with estimated winds of 134 miles per hour. Looking at the radar, velocity is showing gate-to-gate values of nearly 280 miles per hour, which would make the Barnsdall tornado one of the strongest ever. Although it's important to note that the radar is first off nearly always inaccurate, and second, the radar beam isn't scanning the tornado at ground level, but rather at almost a kilometer in the air. And although it's almost certain the Barnsdall tornado didn't actually have winds of 280 miles per hour, a velocity signature this strong is still very rare and still means winds likely in excess of 190 miles per hour. The tornado is now also heading to another family of homes, and even though the tornado still has a very strong velocity couplet and just slapped multiple buildings, these homes would be barely damaged, with the family residences receiving EF1 damage, but a small outbuilding still getting completely slapped. Another warehouse on a hill would also only be slightly damaged, with a rating of EF1. The main reason why the tornado got so weak so quick is because the parent supercell is slowly being consumed by the QLCS. It would only cause EF2 damage to a farm outbuilding, then EF2 damage to trees, and as it would pass through Bartlesville, deal EF1 damage to structures and lift shortly after. To conclude, the Barnsdall tornado traveled a total of 40.8 miles and caused around $25 million in damage. It sadly killed 2 people and injured 34 others. One sad thing I noticed was if you look at towns that have been hit by strong tornadoes on satellite, you notice that they have almost completely been rebuilt. Let's take Greensburg, for example, where on May 4th, 2007, a 1.7 mile wide EF-5 tore through. While there are still many homes missing, they have rebuilt most buildings, even though the town was nearly completely destroyed. In Barnsdall, though, out of the 43 damaged homes, nearly all have been torn down. One main reason for this is that south of Barnsdall was a new oil refinery. This refinery brought in most money for Barnsdall, but in the EF-4 tornado, it was completely destroyed, and a few weeks later, it was announced that they wouldn't rebuild. That's it from me. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting me by liking and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.